There are different types of stress. And when we have just a little bit of stress in pursuit of something that is our purpose or values-driven, or something that we're passionate about, what we call just right stress or a just right challenge, it actually puts us into flow state if we can figure that out. And it's that growth that we get through dealing with that challenge. So we have to steer into it. If we're constantly steering away from it, we never grow. We just sit in our comfort zone.
For Jolee Jones, the idea of organizational development in a public school district is not a matter of either or. It's more of a yes-and approach. The fact that Jolee runs DCSD's outdoor education facility is unique enough, but what she teaches there, along with everything she's learned about teamwork, resilience, stress management, and leadership, has led to an even more unique role in organizational development for the whole district. That kind of role is common in the corporate world, but in education, most professional development is, rightly, focused on helping teachers become more effective at teaching. With Jolee's experience, DCSD leaders pioneered the idea that better teaching and staff development are not mutually exclusive. Both can happen with the right approach. I'm DCSD Communication Director Jason Hackett, and I was privileged to sit under Jolee's learning tree for this episode. And, lucky for you, we had a couple of microphones, so you can too. Okay, so we're here with Jolee Jones, and she is kind of minor celebrity, I'll say, within our school district. When she shows up for events, people flock to her. So this is going to be a very exciting podcast. I'm so excited to talk with you, Jolee. Yeah. And let's just have you introduce yourself to people, because
Sure.
You have an interesting set of titles with your names, and I don't want to mess it up.
Of course, yeah. There's a lot of hats within my title, but my name is Jolee Jones, and I'm the Director of Organizational Development and Experiential Learning, which encompasses the organizational development piece, encompasses culture and climate, like healthy systems, that type of thing. And then I'm also in charge of Stone Canyon Outdoor Adventures, our outdoor ed and summer camp down in Larkspur.
So that's, like you said, a lot of different responsibilities. And
Yes.
But it's really interesting, too, having gotten to see you for the couple of years that I've worked here, how well those work together and serve you well, and they kind of feed into each other's, the way the work is done under both hats, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really the reason for the experiential learning piece in my title. We were trying to figure out how to encompass Stone Canyon creatively, but really experiential learning is my method. I work with adults mainly now in that organizational development piece. But let's face it, adults are just big kids. We're all kids trying to figure it out. And if I can get adults playing, we're able to get to the heart of what's really going on.
Right. Can you talk, first of all, about how unique your position is within the educational sphere? Because we've got 7,600 people that work for the school district. We're the largest employer in Douglas County. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, this is the third school district I've worked for, there's so much that's there for professional development to help educators do the education piece well. But from what I've seen in a lot of other school districts, the education space doesn't do kind of the same thing that the corporate world does in regard to how are we doing with making sure our employees are engaged and their mental health is good, and we're putting things in place for them to lead well. Yeah. This district, I feel, is different from that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm a bit of a unicorn, which I love personally. But as I was starting to figure out kind of this role, I wrote this job description and presented it because I thought we had a need for it. I was trying to look at other school districts to see what was out there to mimic, and there just really wasn't. And so what I found was in the nonprofit and the corporate world, I was able to find exactly what I was looking for and bring it to Douglas County. And I'm appreciative because in so many ways, Douglas County is ahead of the game and ahead of the curve, and in bringing me on and allowing me and believing in me to do this role, we're ahead of the curve there as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you talk then about kind of what that work entails in helping build up capacities and awareness and skills and all the stuff with our staff then?
Yeah, it's been, I think I've been in this role for a little over 4 years now, and I've been trying to figure that out in those 4 years. I jumped in a novice as well in terms of the exact meaning and words and definitions and that kind of thing behind organizational development. But really what it's been is about how to, number one, we create awareness in ourselves. Another bucket is stress management. Education is one of the industries that's got the highest stress levels. I think it's next to healthcare. We're right there, kind of neck and neck. How do we start to build resilience, not only in our teachers, but in our students? When we can model that for our students, that's the best thing. So trying to help staff and teachers do that. Have fun. How do we do well-being? How are we taking care of ourselves? Just getting up and finding better rhythms so that we're not sitting all day or we're not staring at a screen all day.
Thinking about the broad cross-section of a school district, most of our employees, of course, are the educators.
Yeah.
But there's so many other people that are helping to support those educators and put things in place, and your administrative level and your staff level and things like that. How do you operationalize working with all those different groups?
For sure. That's also been a bit of a puzzle to try to figure out. I like to work with teams and really be able to push in with teams. And I think what I figured out in the last maybe year and a half is that I need time. The reason that I wanted to create this role 4 years ago was because people were coming down to outdoor ed and they were doing just a quick day retreat, and a day is just not enough, and it's not really a full day. We're talking maybe 4 to 5 hours that I was working with them doing some team development stuff, trying to work on whatever issues they brought to me in the needs assessment. And it just felt like whack-a-mole. Like I would work with one team and it felt really good, and another team would come in with the exact same kind of concerns. And so in trying to systemize that, I think I realized that I need about 6 months to a year to work with a team, pushing in, coming in, doing some of that team development work, pushing in and helping out with culture. How do we give feedback to one another? What does our decision-making process look like? What are our priorities? And when we start to really dig into that work and have longer, more intentional conversations around it, then the system and the team and the individuals within those teams and systems starts to change. But it's not fast work. It's slow and methodical, just like change is, right? And our brains don't like to change. Our bodies don't like to change, which is why it's so hard. And so when we can spend that long amount of time with a team, when we all get in the same room and we're having those oftentimes vulnerable conversations, that's where the magic is.
Yeah. And that's hard to get anywhere. It's hard to get people pulled in and get them to devote even a half a day or something like that.
Yeah.
But how often do you check in with people, and do they have kind of homework with it and things like that? Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to develop. I'm trying to be more intentional about those things. And there's a handful of teams that I'm working with right now, including my own down at Stone Canyon. They are lovely enough to be a bit of my guinea pig. And they know that, but we're trying to figure out what is the cadence, how often. And usually it's because of how busy we are and because we each have things that we're trying to work on, initiatives and so on and so forth. Usually it's 2 to 3 hours at a time. It might even be an hour. But then, there is some reflective piece that comes with that. There's homework of what does this really look like? Let me think about this ahead of time. And part of that is also designed to help with the different emergenetics profiles that we have across the district. And being an associate, an emergenetics associate for close to a decade now, what I've realized is that some people just need more processing time. And so if I'm able to give that homework, then I can get their voice in the room. They've had time to think about it, and they're more willing to share as opposed to just a big group circle and me asking a question and hoping that I get the feedback that's needed for growth.
Sure. Can you dig in a little bit on the emergenetics piece? Because for people that aren't familiar with that, I think within the school district, we've gotten that pretty well socialized and people know what that is. But if you have people from the external side that are, what is that? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a homegrown, it's based out of Centennial, but it's a homegrown psychometric tool. When I say that, it's a communication tool. And it's similar to when you think of like a Myers-Briggs or a DISC, but it is different. It is set apart in that this particular tool has 7 indicators. So what we do is we pull thinking and behaving apart. And you have access to all of the behaviors. You have access to all of the thinking attributes. This emergenetics just measures where you prefer to go. And so I prefer to go to my analytical and my social. as opposed to structural and conceptual. I can do structural and conceptual, but give me data and give me people, and I am happy. That's my happy place. And then there's the behavior aspect as well. And what this does for us in a team development setting or just in the day-to-day, it allows us to communicate more fluidly with one another. If I know your profile, Jason, and it's different than mine, well, how do I flex to help my message get to you in a more effective way? If I just keep communicating from my profile and what feels good to me, I might miss the mark. If you're not into data and I go into big numbers and that kind of thing, I might just lose you entirely. But how do I frame my message to you? And then you can do the same thing for me. It becomes this two-way street of communication. And when we become more innovative, we become more creative and effective in our communication when we do that.
And it helps to give everybody a common language to talk about how we work together then and understand each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So for people understanding that, then the emergenetics piece, pulling then everybody together on a team. How big of teams are you usually working with? Is it big teams, little teams?
All of it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I've worked with whole schools, like elementaries and that kind of thing. I've done presentations for big high schools. I don't work with that as in terms of like culture design just yet. I'd love to be able to get there. Right now I'm doing smaller work with departments, and I've done a lot of work with Vail, which is fantastic. I work with their students and have gone in and pushed in and do stuff with their leadership team and their teachers, which has been wonderful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to get students set up to like understand themselves and how they work well with each other. And then with the entrepreneurial aspect of Vail especially.
Yep.
Oh, that's really interesting. Holy cow, that really would set kids up then.
Yeah, we actually, Vail partnered with Stone Canyon this year, and a lot of the work that I do with adults too, has been, we did, so this last year was our first year, we did during immersion week is what it was. So every grade came down that first week of school. And we got to play with them in the outdoors, get them away from their phones and that type of thing. And we had a theme for each class, but the through line was values. What are your values? And I am amazed by these kids because I didn't have that language when I was their age. I think I didn't really start talking about my own values except for maybe the last 6 or 7 years. And so we talk about those as a through line and how do they shift from freshman to senior year. And for those seniors, how does that start to shift as you're looking at college or trades or whatever it might be as the next step as you enter the world. And I love that because those are the same conversations I have with adults. What are your values? How do they drive what you do, drive your purpose? And how are they shifting? Mine shifted years ago, and they're still shifting to some degree. But I think often we don't think about that and how the decisions we make, are they values-driven? Are we going against our values? Why does that decision not feel good? And that's a lot of what I try to get adults in the system, the teachers, directors, coordinators, whatever role it might be, to start thinking about in the work that they do.
That is fascinating because as I'm thinking about this, the metaphor I'm coming up with in my head, especially thinking back to when I was that age, your high school, thinking about college and things, I almost think about it as like driving on an icy road.
Okay.
and tell me if this is crazy or not, but driving on an icy road, you're just, kind of clenching the steering wheel and hoping you can do it right. But if you have this background, this research-based profiling system that helps you understand yourself and others, it helps you kind of steer through that stuff. And if you slide a little bit, it's steer into the slide versus steer against it and figure out how to navigate your way through. Is that
I love that metaphor.
Does that work?
Yeah, it does. And I really love the idea of, right, like we know that when you steer into it as opposed to away from it, and think about that, just that particular part of the metaphor in terms of conflict, right, or challenge. And so often we want to navigate and like pull away from the thing that is hard. And the courage that it takes to go, I'm actually going to, steer into this, because the only way through it, or, like to get past it, is to go through it. We have to have the hard conversations. We have to, keep working on that subject that we don't like, or, keep working with that task that we don't like in order to grow. And I think in terms of stress, we have this tendency to want to avoid stress. And that's not all stress is equal. I think we have to realize that there are different types of stress. And when we have just a little bit of stress in pursuit of something that is our purpose or values driven, or something that we're passionate about, what we call just right stress or a just right challenge, it actually puts us in the flow state if we can figure that out. And it's that growth that we get through dealing with that challenge. So we have to steer into it. If we're constantly steering away from it, we never grow. We just sit in our comfort zone, which is akin to sitting on the couch with our favorite pint of ice cream or dessert or whatever it might be, watching our favorite Netflix show, right? It's nice and comfortable, but we have to actually get up off the couch and try something different. Yeah.
It's the same thing as building up muscle or things like that. You have to work at it, break it down just enough so that it grows.
Exactly.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
And in a way, I mean, yeah, it's the muscle. It's your brain, your brain muscle, right? And that's what we're here for education. So
exactly.
it all ties in together. That's fascinating. And so how does that then, because you mentioned resilience, and I've seen a couple of presentations of yours recently talking about resilience. That feels like that's a big piece of this right now and where you're steering things.
Yeah, it's I've been doing resilience stuff for some time, but I recently just got certified as a resilience coach through an organization called the Resilience Institute, and they're based out of Sweden, and they've been doing work since 2002, and all research-based. It's fantastic, but I have had a chance to do some pilot programs with this, and it is fascinating to see. There's 50 different factors associated with resilience according to their research, and there's a diagnostic tool that folks can take, and it measures each one of those 50 factors, and so you can see where you're doing really, really well and where you struggle. Multitasking is one area, for instance, that a lot of people struggle with, right? Because there's so much to do, but we're really not giving the tasks that we're focused on enough attention, right? We might work on something, then our phone buzzes, and so we flip our attention over here, and then someone walks in the door, and there goes our attention. We're constantly task switching, and what that does is it actually kills our resilience. It pushes us down and down and down because we can't, number one, then the things pile up, but when we can't find that focus, it's draining. And so we lose creativity, we lose innovation, efficiency, all of that. And so really being able to think about resilience from like 3 major buckets. So performance mindset, and that's like, how am I thinking and feeling? Do I have purpose? Am I aligned in my role? There's the well-being aspect, which is how am I taking care of myself? Which is where a lot of people struggle, right? Am I getting the right amount of sleep? How am I eating? All of that. Am I getting movement throughout the day? It doesn't mean that you're working out, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to turn into a gym rat, but are you moving throughout the day? And then if you can work out, awesome. But that's the well-being piece. And then there's the bounce. And that's when we start to really lose resilience. It's when we start avoiding hard conversations. It's when we procrastinate. It's when we start to get a little defensive about maybe a decision we've made. We get sad. We start to like lose connection to our purpose. And that actually puts us into a resilience hole. But if we can do a few different things here and there, we actually start to bounce back up and find our resilience again. And the thing about resilience, it's not a steady number for a particular like time in your life. It ebbs and flows throughout the day. And I think when we think about stress and resilience, if we can be mindful of the fact that it does ebb and flow, I think it takes some of the pressure off. Like if you can change your mindset, have this little mindset shift and say, ooh, that was a stressful meeting. I'm going to take a few breaths. I'm going to get up and maybe walk around the building or say hi to some people, and then move into your next task, your next meeting, whatever it might be, with a fresh mindset. Then you're not taking that stress with you from the last meeting, and then you don't get home and say, ooh, that was a stressful day. All right, so how do you, from moment to moment, shift your resilience and shift your stress through changing that mindset?
Oh, wow. It's so many questions that came up from this. This is fascinating stuff, because if you think about the well-being piece, you think about central staff, and there's so much email that goes around for people. It's just so much email. And we've heard about all the studies that, all the interruptions from emails and texts and Slack messages and things like that, that takes a toll on you. Yeah. But then I flip it and I think about teachers in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Like you've got so many individuals in your classroom, whether it's at the elementary level, you're responsible for 20 plus individual kids and you need to really know them, or you're at the secondary level and you've got a couple hundred possibly that are in and out of your room, and you need to know them and know how to reach each of them.
Yeah.
And then you maybe can almost get into a flow, and then the bell rings or something, right?
Sure.
And so do you find that piece of the well-being and the interruption is something that is common across the district, and that's one of the things that has to be tackled?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? We have become addicted to notifications, addicted to whatever it might be, if it's our personal or if it's email on our phone, whatever it might be, a text message. Even, again, someone walking in your door is essentially a notification popping up on your phone. It's just a social one, right? And so that's one of those things that we need to shift. But again, also for those teachers that are in the classroom, I like how you said, you almost get into a little bit of flow. I think, again, how do you create the mindset around, if I'm in my classroom, I'm working with Johnny over here and then Susie over here, and I might be switching between kids, but is it all in service of the same purpose for that period or for that lesson, whatever it might be? That is still flow. So if you're teaching a lesson and then your watch goes off and you look down, that is what pulls you out of flow. If you go check your computer in the middle of the lesson to see if that email that you've been waiting for came through, that pulls you out of flow. And so it's really, when we're talking about flow, it's presence. How do we be present with the thing that we are doing? And in one of the trainings that I did just last week, we were talking about that. How do you even just micro chunk your flow and your tasks? Because we are so used to switch, that if I say, you know what, for 10 minutes, I'm just going to work on this thing. Cool. Just do that for 10 minutes and be present with that task. And maybe the next task is only 2 minutes, but for those 2 minutes, you do that. If we start to practice that, and there's a lot of different simple things. Number one, just turn your phone over, right? We both came in here with our phones today, but we both made sure that we turned off our notification or silenced it so that we weren't distracted by that, right? I've got my phone. I've learned to turn my phone over. All right, so that I'm not distracted by, because when I see the screen, if something lights up, my attention gets pulled. So by doing that, it's a little bit of a hack to find my presence, right? I put on a certain type of music that doesn't have lyrics that pulls me out of my flow. There's a lot of little things that can help you micro chunk that presence. Right. And then from there, like you said, the muscle that you build, suddenly your ability to focus and stay with a task longer or stay with a lesson longer gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's a fascinating piece that I think about. Even I was almost feeling guilty about this, and I'm going to turn my phone over right now because I'm feeling guilty about that right now. But no, being in the office and talking to a colleague about something we're working on, and yet in between them and me, in the middle distance, is my computer screen. Mm-hmm. And I can just quickly look at this. And I was actually trying to type an email while still carrying on a conversation with somebody. And I got done with that and I was like, how rude is that to that person? That's me telling them that they're not that important or not important enough for me to fully pay attention to them, and I'm typing away. Yeah. It's one of those things. And is that kind of along the lines of make those little changes and be more aware of what you're doing?
Yeah, it's those little things, right? That's that multitasking, and we're addicted to doing it because let's face it, right? And not to get too philosophical, but that's what the social media scroll has done to us, right? We're looking for a next dopamine hit. We're looking for something that gives us a little bit of a jolt of joy or something like that. And we can't hold attention for much longer longer than we used to anymore. And so, you're listening to that person across from you, but then you see this shiny screen, just out of your, in your peripheral, and you start doing that. And our kids do it in the classroom, and then we do it in meetings, right? And then we wonder why we're annoyed when someone isn't giving us their attention, but we do the same thing. It's just part of our culture now, and it takes intentional effort to just kind of close that screen just a little bit and say, you've got my full attention right now. And if you have something that you need to you're waiting for something, hey, my phone might ring. I do have my phone on vibrate right now because I am waiting for something that's super important, but just letting people know that. right? Sometimes that happens for me, and just letting someone know that, then you're not saying, God, they're just ignoring me and sending that text out right now. Simple things like that.
It's countercultural to where we are in society right now. And so how hard is it to swim upstream in that regard, I guess?
It's really, really hard, right? But that's why I think we were talking about like small moves earlier, small, consistent moves. If you try to go cold turkey on any of these things, that gets into what we would call intensity, right? And intensity never works in terms of change. You fall down, it might work for a little while, and then it gets really, really hard and you fall off the cliff. And then you try again with intensity, you bring that intensity, all that energy, and you fall off the cliff again, right? It's just like when we try to go to the gym at the beginning of the year with a New Year's resolution, right? Most resolutions fail by February. So I think it's like 90%, something like that. But small, consistent effort, that is what moves the needle, and that's what helps us swim upstream, right? We swim upstream a little bit, we grab a rock and breathe. We do it a little bit more, and then suddenly we can go for longer and longer and longer. But it's just, I think, what I've seen over and over again, and I did this as well in my wellness journey when it started years ago, was you try for these big heroic efforts, and it never works, right? And so what is something that you are willing to do? You're like, I can try that. And for me, those small steps have shifted into major changes in my world that I feel every day now. Like, I don't have my work email on my phone. That was a lot of leaders in the district know that about me. I talk about it a lot at our district leadership meetings. But a friend in the district challenged me to do it on my birthday. And I, like most people, if you're listening and you hear me say, take your email off your phone, you probably cringe a little bit and you get a little anxious. I did the same thing, but I tried it. I said, I'll try it for a month. And suddenly, by the time a month rolled around, I wasn't looking anymore. And so little by little, that muscle started to build. And I was able to also take other notifications off my phone that were keeping me from being present in my personal life outside of work.
That's a piece that I feel like societally, again, we have just jumped in with both feet with these phones and notifications and all this stuff. And we can't help but standing in line at the grocery store. I can't have a moment. I can't have my own thoughts. I need to like scroll some social media thing or something like that. And like, what happened to us?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's we got really addicted to our phones. All right. It's just this personal way to not deal with the world, and it's always right there in front of us. We don't know how to be bored anymore. And it's hard, right? And we see that when we see it in the classrooms, we see it in meetings, we see it when we go to professional development. If we're the ones standing up there giving that professional development, people get distracted really easily. And I think it's the loss of boredom that's really, really hard. I mean, I think when we were kids, we didn't have any of that. And not to, be too nostalgic for an older time, but there was something really wonderful about that, is that through that boredom, we figured things out. We figured out problem solving, critical thinking in an entirely different way that, unfortunately, the data is showing that this generation coming up is actually struggling with that. And so that's why you see books like Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, and a lot of talk around that. You have a generation coming up trying to go back to flip phones, which, God bless them. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Just to take that step in, you know what, I'm going to be intentional about this and not have these distractions in front of me. Yeah. And another thing that you mentioned the district leadership meetings, and something that you said a couple of sessions ago, talking about that idea of end your meeting and then take a little bit of a break for yourself before you jump into the next meeting. And it was funny, when you mentioned that, the day before, I had back-to-back online meetings, like a Zoom call or a Google Meet thing, and one literally like sign off, sign into the next one, and there was no time to switch. And then right after that was an in-person meeting. And I got out of that and was just completely mentally drained. Yeah. Even though I didn't do anything physical, but it was like switching from this subject immediately to the second subject to a third one. Yeah. And then also trying to be present with the person that I was talking to in the last meeting. And then the very next day, you talked about that. And I was like, it was like a light bulb moment, but it's almost like it shouldn't be a light bulb moment, right?
It's easy, right? Like we know that inherently, but we the way that our culture works, the way that even just the culture of our district works is go, 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 right? And that's not anyone's fault. It's just what's become the norm. And so, yes, I've tried to be really intentional now, just personally, and I know some other leaders that have started doing this, and I love that they do, is that they block their meetings for 45 minutes now. And so they have that built-in 15 minutes. And sometimes it goes over and that's okay, but that allows you to go to the bathroom. It allows you to get some water, stand up and stretch, get that breath into your body. Those little things like that create a world of difference. I'm going to try to describe a slide that I use really quick. So Microsoft's Human Factors Lab, I love this slide. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. They did a study where they had two groups of people that went to back-to-back meetings. And so they had them wear the EEG caps, so they had bad hair the rest of the day. But the first group went to those meetings back-to-back with no break. So we went 4 meetings back-to-back, no break. And what they saw, so the coloring for this is blue is less stress all the way up through the rainbow to red being high stress, right? And you see their brains getting progressively redder and redder and redder. It's like the brains are overheating. And that's what happens when we don't give ourselves a break. And so if you think, you explained exactly what is happening for those people's brains, right? You're like, am I even paying attention to this person? Can I even thoughtfully ingest what's happening right now to give them the best feedback or the best collaboration? So that's what's happening when we go back to back to back. Group number 2 got a 5-minute break in between. 5 minutes. Their coloring is almost all blue. So they're able to stay in that less stress because they took just 5 minutes break. It doesn't take much to get to help reset our brain so that it can actually show up to the next meeting fully, And so, and at the end of that, you see a little bit of like the coloring start to like tick up into some stress, but it's pretty even blue across the map. And so 5 minutes is all it takes. And if you don't even have that as a teacher, how do you take just a couple minutes that you do have to take a breath, to move your body? Or here's the other thing, invite your students into it. So start and or end a class with a team breath, right? Because what you're experiencing, your students are experiencing. What you as a leader are experiencing, your team members are experiencing at the beginning and end of a meeting as well. And so I use this thing called a team breath. And it's just, I get everyone 1, 2, 3, inhale, and then an exhale collectively, right? And that brings breath into our body. It slows our heart rate down and it calms the stress and the cortisol in our system. So simple things like that keep our brain in less stress, nice and blue and calm.
That's one of those things that like just a small little adjustment in your daily practice or your hour by hour practice that can make a huge difference. I mean, think about the ramifications then of somebody that had a very red brain by the end of the day. And what does that mean for the rest of their day then when they go home and try to be with their family or whatever? Or if they've got, you mentioned it was 4 hours basically. So that's a half a day. What's the other half of the day like?
Exactly.
Versus the people that took care of themselves and were intentional about it. Then they could continue being intentional and be there with their family and friends and whatever. Oh, this is fascinating stuff. So thinking about that then too, and talking about the district leadership meetings, those are the ones with director level and above and principals and all the administrative side that get together once a month to talk through a lot of the logistics. I mean, it's all kinds of things from new laws going into place and talking about budgets and all the things that they have to do.
Exactly.
But how valuable is it that you get to have a part of those meetings and affect so many leaders within the district?
It's a gift that I have time at those meetings. Leadership is important, and the district's not the end-all be-all, right? But what we do and what we model matters, right? And leaders are also trying to take on so much. And so to be able to provide them with some tools and strategies that not only that they can use, but so many of the leaders that attend DLT I love it. They reach out to me asking for slides or the tools that I use so that they do it. They can do that with their staff as well. Or they'll invite me into their schools, which gives me a bigger audience and allows this work to grow organically throughout the entire system. And so I love being able to get up there and chat with them and invite them into a lot of reflective conversations about how they're showing up in their own work, how they're showing up for themselves, and how they show up for those that they serve.
Yeah, I think about when you see those videos of people setting up like a big domino thing and like a whole gym or something, and you get those people in the district leadership meetings, they're the first dominoes.
Yeah.
And then it goes, and if they can set the tone and encourage their staffs and get more thoughtfulness so that people can become more resilient and more present and just feel better about what they're doing. Because again, to talk about the stress side of things, I think about, from working in school districts, you see how much responsibility is on the shoulder of a teacher.
Yeah.
Not just to educate their students, but ensure that their well-being is good, because if a kid comes into a classroom hungry or they didn't sleep or they're not feeling well or there's something else going on, teacher's still responsible for teaching them. And how do they do that? And they take on a lot of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you work with that side of things, with how much they take on to themselves and I guess give themselves some grace to be able to think about how they can be resilient?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's an important question. And when I say big, I mean in terms of its implications.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us struggle with that taking on too much, right? It's the compassion fatigue. We care about our students. We care about our staff and the community. And that's a lot. If we don't learn how to offset that or put it away, when to put it away, it will drown us, right? And that will absolutely drop our resilience and create more stress for us. And so part of that is simply understanding what is yours to control and what is not. Right? You can have empathy for a student. You can continue to help give them strategies and help them through a hard time and not take it on yourself. And understanding what within that dynamic can you control. And if you can't control it, it's learning how to let it go and saying that piece, if I continue to perseverate on it, will put me into a dark place, has the potential to put me into a dark place, right? People have different, just kind of natural resiliency within their own nervous systems. But I think that's a huge piece. I think, how do you stay regulated yourself? I have a colleague that created a framework. She's brilliant in terms of how she works with the nervous system. That is her expertise area. And then working with youth, serving organizations from camps to schools and all of that. But her framework starts with grounded leadership. And grounded leadership is a teacher, a coordinator, a principal, a director, whoever that might be. But how do you take care of your own nervous system first, right? If you were starting to feel dysregulated, what are the things, the strategies that you can use? Is it that breath? Is it a little bit of movement? Is it just shaking it out in the middle of class, right? If obviously you're teaching, you can't get up and go walk around the building, but can you invite yourself and your students into a bit of movement, move that through? So keeping yourself grounded and regulated, because you can't help a student if they are dysregulated, if you are dysregulated, right? You will co-dysregulate together. And so you as a teacher have to find that groundedness within yourself and help bring them back down to regulate. And that's something that I learned myself. My son had a lot of trauma and issues. And so I had to learn that lesson the hard way too, that if I was dysregulated, I couldn't parent him effectively. And so how do we start with ourselves? Right? It is quite literally the oxygen mask on a plane. You got to put your mask on first before you can help somebody else.
Right. I feel like I could keep asking more and more questions, but as we're talking about how much time to devote to something, I'm noticing we've been talking for 40 minutes. I want to leave you time to be able to take a breath before the next thing you got to do here. But can we wrap up really quickly on a bit of a shifting gears, but to talk a little bit about the outdoor adventures piece?
Sure.
That's another piece that, if people aren't familiar, is another kind of a unicorn that this school district has, right?
Yeah, it's Oh, what a passion project that has been for me. So Stone Canyon Outdoor Adventures, we've been open since 2012. We started just as an outdoor ed center in the district. We have 99 acres down in Larkspur, wild animals, we have forests, we have a bunch of different ecosystems down there. But now we also run summer camp in the summer for any kiddo. They don't have to be Douglas County. And then conference and retreats. So if you want to just bring your team down, or you have a community organization that wants to come out, we support a lot of community organizations within Douglas County and the surrounding areas, where it's really about getting people outside to experience one another. Our why down at Stone Canyon is we transform how people experience. And we invite you as a client or someone coming down to spend time with us to fill in that sentence. How did we transform your experience? What did we transform your experience of? But yeah, it's really about engaging in the outdoors, engaging with one another in nature.
And using that to, again, restore some of that groundedness as well, right?
Yeah. What I love, right? We have our outdoor ed program where a lot of our elementaries come down and they've bring their 5th or 6th graders, and like these kids that may not always interact in the day-to-day suddenly become friends, right? Maybe the kid that struggles in the 4 classroom walls gets out there and thrives, right? That is their environment. And I had a kid like that when I was an instructor 20-something years ago. That is actually what brought me into this field. I saw it happen in real time. And so the fact that that is still a truth about this industry, about outdoor education and experiential education, it makes me so happy. And anytime we have those kids that come down, even when they do thrive in the classroom and they come out there and they thrive in a different way, they find a new passion or something that they're excited about, that fills us up and lights us up down there.
Well, and it's also a bit of a, like, we live in Colorado. It's sort of a duh.
You would think.
Yeah. But one of my daughters graduated from another school district in Colorado.
Okay.
They never did any kind of an outdoor thing. What?
Yeah.
Why? Why not take advantage of that and start them early on appreciating what they've got right in their backyard and what they can do, and how that also just restores your mind and your body and your soul.
Yeah. Well, and it allows, we invite high school students down to volunteer with our outdoor ed program and with our summer camp to be a junior counselor. But they get to come down, they get community service hours for it. And to watch the number of high school students that come back even after they've completed their hours, and they still want to come back because they found something that they're really great at out there, and they thrive. And oftentimes those high schoolers that keep coming out will apply to be a summer camp counselor once they graduate, right? And that's what we really want to do is build that ability for them to keep coming back and serving themselves, but also our community. And so we've had plenty of high school leads come back, and they will align it to where they come with their elementary school. And so they get to see their teachers, which is such just a cool part of our community down there. That's the community that we're trying to build. But then again, those students just keep coming back, and they figure out that helps them when they go to college, right? That now, I have this love of the outdoors, and hopefully they know to use that to help them with their own stress when they're in college.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on having literally the coolest job in the world.
Thank you.
This is, hopefully everybody else listening to this comes away extremely jealous of you having the best job to just help so many people in so many good and grounded ways that just goes beyond a single subject or a single classroom, but really can affect people for their entire lives. Yeah. And then also ripple out to other people in their lives. Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to explain some of this to us. Hopefully we can have you back sometime, because it is just an absolute joy to be able to hear about this and talk with you about this. So thank you. Yeah,
thanks for having me on. And I'd be happy to come back. I love talking about this stuff and love being able to, in whatever way I can, share about the work that I do. So, because my hope is that it impacts the most amount of people so that we can all be healthier in the work that we do, so we can pursue the work that we do.
For sure. And I hope that other school districts see the example that you're setting here and start thinking about, let's take care of our staff.
That'd be the dream.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Jason.
You've been listening to the DCSD Notebook Podcast from the #1 academic school district in the Denver metro area. To learn more about all the options available to students at every level of Douglas County School District, visit dcsdk12.org. We really appreciate the growing number of new listeners giving DCSD Notebook and Parent University a listen. To make sure you get access to all our future episodes, hit the follow button in your favorite podcast app. And if you like what you're hearing, please do us a favor and tell more people about the podcast. Thanks for listening.